Okay, I haven't done one of these in a while, but I'm going to get back into it because I've been reading and I have some books that I have stored up um, that I've read and that I wanted to review. So, the first one that I'd like to review is The Interoceptive Mind, which was pretty heavy reading. It was compiled and edited and whatever this last year, 2019. And so it's a fairly recent work. It deals with a lot of neuroscience, it deals a lot with the brain and specifically how our interoception, our gut feelings, our heart feelings affect the brain, how our different nervous systems affect the brain, the autonomic, the enteric, and the peripheral. Um, the central nervous system, the brain is a part of the central nervous system, so it's obviously talking about that too. Anyway, but it gets into a lot of different. It gets into a lot of different fields. It gets into eating disorders, which is very interesting, and how it gets into prediction errors and talking about that. A lot of it is done. A lot of this is built around Carl Friston and other people's works on prediction errors and somatic errors and just trying to map the body using a new way of looking at things, and really just a more effective way of looking at things. It talks a little bit about the Markov blanket and goes into that just a little bit, which if you do want to delve into that, go over to Carl and look up Carl Friston and listen to his stuff and read his stuff. And the guy's he's a genius. And he's revolutionizing the way we look at mental health and physical health and everything. He's a psychiatrist and a physicist, and um, he's the Einstein of our time, I guess, or the Newton of our time, or something. Anyway, all that to say, this book, The Interoceptive Mind, gets into a lot of different fields, and it takes from a lot of different fields. It says here, by bringing together the perspectives of experimental psychology and cognitive neuroscience, psychophysiology, psychiatry, clinical psychology, and philosophy, this volume aims to go beyond the known role of interoception for homeostasis in order to ask and hopefully provide important insights on the role that interoception plays for our mental life and lived experiences, for awareness, affect, and cognition. And they do all of that. They talk about time as it is perceived. They talk about the clinical implications of interoception as more than just a maintenance of homeostasis. They talk about how it affects our sensory signals. They talk about autism and how the autism people on the autism spectrum have increased awareness of their interoceptive signals. They really get deep on this. It's worth a read. It's definitely worth a read. I had difficulty because of which I understand this is a textbook. So of course I was going to have difficulty as I am not a college educated psychologist, neurobiologist, whatever person. So it is a heavier read, and the reason is because there is so much medical jargon that if you haven't memorized the terms and you're not familiar with the terms, you're constantly having to look up what they mean or infer what they mean based on the context of the sentence, which their sentences are really clunky, and it wasn't made to be like a readable book. It was meant to be a compilation of studies and illustrations to show that interoception is more than just our ability to keep homeostasis in our bodies. So it was definitely worth a read, and it was good knowledge to have and great knowledge to learn, but it was a little difficult. But that's not a critique on the book. The content, the writers, what they did in putting this book together was incredible. And I definitely learned from it. I learned more about philosophy and the way you look at stuff and why we look at stuff the way we do. Um, and it made a ton of sense. And so that I would definitely suggest reading this book if you're interested in getting a deeper awareness of self and who we are and why we do things the way we do things. Anyway, yeah, pretty simple review. I'm not going to really get into details about the book because it is so thick, but it's well worth the time. Well worth the time that it takes to read it. It's a few hundred pages long. It is pretty thick. I read a few pages every night as I could. It took some pretty solid focus, so make sure that you set aside time and a place to do that, and enjoy it. Worth it.